Here we are again now with our lower extremity leg model. We are going to be taking a look at now the posterior compartment of the leg. These are our main plantar flexor muscles. Plantar flex, or even flexion, remember we talked about the toes being like our hands, and when we curl our fingers like this we call it flexion. Same way as we curl our toes in that direction, they're called flexion. And so what we're going to try to accomplish is taking a look at all these muscles. Now, plantar flexion is a much more powerful action, and so you'll find we have a lot more muscles to accommodate that. And so there's actually 7 muscles that we need to take a look at. 4 what we would term on the superficial layer, and then 3 on the deep layer. We arrange the muscles in a superficial, and then we'll actually even can pull off this whole section and then take a look at the deep layer. So let's start with the superficial layer. 4 muscles altogether. Let's start off with the first and most obvious one, and that's the gastrocnemius. As you can imagine, the gastrocnemius literally means, well, for me it makes more sense to say gastro means bellies, which they do, and then nemius, like evil twin, so nemesis. So you got 2 evil twin bellies that just kind of hang around. This is the gastrocnemius. You'll notice that it lays on top of the second muscle called the soleus muscle. The soleus makes up actually most of the bulk of the calf. Gastroc tends to be a little bit thinner than soleus, but you can see how thick soleus tends to be. Very, very large muscle. Very powerful plantar flexor muscle, while the gastrocnemius kind of hangs out on top. As you can see, all this is all soleus. All this is soleus. So my fingers are on soleus here. My fingers now are on the gastrocnemius. Alright, so that's 2. The third one is this really small one that comes from the lateral side of the gastrocnemius, or lateral side of the lateral head, or medial side of the lateral head of the gastrocnemius, and that's the plantar. So you'll notice it's just about the size of your thumb, and then becomes essentially just a long tendon. So when we take a look at this, a lot of people ask, well, what does it do? Well, clearly it helps plantar flex and flex the knee a little bit, but in terms of true tension producing, it's really not there. But all 3 of these insert on the calcaneal tendon. A lot of people call this the Achilles tendon. Calcaneal tendon is more anatomically appropriate. So let's take a look. Let's pull this off. These are our 3 superficial ones, and then there's a 4th one right here. Voila! This one's called the popliteus. Aptly named because the popliteal right behind the knee. So this guy initiates flexion of the knee, because kind of unlocking your knee, this guy does that by kind of turning your femoral condyles out of the condyles of the tibia and then allowing you to kind of bend your knees. So that's the superficial layer, all 4. Let's take a look at now the deep layer, and there's 3 muscles all in a row. If you know the anterior compartment with the 3 muscles there, you already know the posterior compartment, because instead of saying tibialis anterior, the one in the middle is tibialis posterior. And instead of saying extensor hallucis longus, you say flexor now hallucis longus. And then this guy right here is flexor digitorum longus. Same names, just one word different. Here's one thing unique. It would make more sense that you would think that the most lateral muscle, because as you can see this is the lateral side, the pinky side, the most lateral muscle would go down to the most lateral appendage, but that's not the case. You'll find that for some reason our body allows these tendons to cross, so that the most lateral appendage is actually the one that goes to the most medial appendage, which is the flexor hallucis longus. And then the most medial muscle, which you would think goes straight down and goes to your toe, it doesn't. It comes straight down and crosses over and becomes the flexor digitorum longus. So if I'm counting in order, here's the fibula, and you're like, well, what's this muscle? That's the peroneus group or fibularis group. That's the lateral compartment. But here is flexor hallucis longus, flexor or tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus. So let's do a quick review. These are all the muscles in that compartment here, 7 altogether that I want you to know. So first one and foremost, this one is gastrocnemius. Below it, rests on top of the soleus muscle, which is all this. Underneath it as well, all that would be soleus. The small plantaris muscle, the popliteus muscle, the flexor hallucis longus, the tibialis posterior, and then the flexor digitorum longus.